Hello and welcome to a new episode of Divination Detectives. Today I have myself and lovely Alex on the other side talking about the Earth having a panic attack. Before we jump into this episode, we would want to put out a quick disclaimer that all of the topics that we are talking about are not meant to harm anyone, and that all of the information provided is our own research, and you are very free and rather invited to do your own and let us know what you found. And without any further ado, I will let the mic to Alex so she can introduce us to this episode.
Hello there. And yeah, welcome to our new episode. So, as Goran touched on, we are going to talk about the Earth. So, there's been some talk, I guess, on the World Wide Web, internet land, whatever you want to call it, about Earth right now and how it's having a panic attack. We found this topic really interesting because there's a lot of ways to kind of look at this information and a lot of scientific data already about magnetic poles and frequencies and all of these cool things. So we wanted to check in, with the cards and tap into a little channeling of Mother Earth herself, Gaia, however you want to speak to her. I always picture Earth as the mother because she loves us unconditionally. She provides for us unconditionally. We are all formed from the earth through our own body, our physical body, through the water, through our DNA. We're basically part of the earth. Okay. So if Earth is suffering, if Earth is having a panic attack, we're definitely all feeling these things as well on like a personal level inside our bodies as well. So, yeah, let me kind of look through my notes here. So the first thing I wanted to kind of like look at with this is just give a little bit of background on what we're talking about and try to help it like clarify, I guess. A lot of this information is kind of new to me too. I'm learning a lot, and so hopefully I can put this across so that it makes sense. And yeah, we're all on the same page. And if you think about the magnetic force of the Earth itself, so we all know that there's a North Pole and a South Pole, and it has to do with the magnetic frequency, and it needs like a stable frequency to keep those poles separate, to keep them opposite magnetized. I'm sorry, that's not the right word, but when magnets work, they are either stuck together or they're like pushing apart, right? So the poles of the earth push each other apart and they have the North and South Pole. So one of the theories about Mother Earth having a panic attack or struggling, having a heart attack right now is possibly from the poles. When the North and South poles are actually, they're not set points. They hover and move around a little bit all the time based on the iron molten the molten iron in the core of the earth. Okay. So as this iron moves around, it causes this magnetic field or the magnetic points of the earth to move around a little bit. So that being said, the pole right now, as it was always located like in the Arctic for the North Pole anyway, it actually has been recorded as drifting like towards Siberia. So it was like more north, I believe it was like north of Canada and all the little islands at the top there, but it's actually been traveling a little bit. Now, the thing about the pole switch is it's not something that just happens instantly. It's a very gradual process and it can take thousands of years. The intervals in which it switches is it's almost random, and it can be over a very long time. So for example, and I don't know how they get these numbers, to be honest, but scientists come up with these numbers based on so many different things. But basically, they were saying, like, with the pole switching, that it has happened in the past. And on average, it's between 200 and 300,000 years on average. However, that range can really be huge, and it can happen between 5,000 and 50 million years. So, but the average is the 2 to 300. So I think it ties to, prehistoric times and animals killing off and core samples and all these different ways that they figured out how to record that. But it kind of makes us feel like we're due for that to happen again. But again, like, this isn't set in stone. It could be anywhere up to 50 million years. We really don't know. But if it is happening right now, what it does is it messes with the Earth's regular frequency. So in the magnetic field, it creates this frequency of 7.83 hertz when it is stable. Okay. But the Earth, like, as things shift, it will kind of peak up and peak down a little bit. So the frequency does change, but the stable one is at 7.83. So as these magnets kind of shift around, it's affecting that equilibrium of magnetic pulse, if you will, the heartbeat of the Earth, you could even call it. It allows, when this happens, it makes the Earth more vulnerable. And when I was kind of looking into the scientific research, it makes me feel like it's vulnerable to physical things, but it's also vulnerable to unseen energies. When it is vulnerable like this, we're definitely susceptible, sorry, I can't say that word, to solar flares, solar radiation. When that is flaring up and the Earth's frequency is off, it's like more of that's being received. And when that sort of happens, that can affect us on a collective level, like for like, like affecting weather, affecting environments, creating big storms, creating like big disasters even. But then it also can affect us on a personal level because it will affect our own frequency because we are part of the Earth's frequency. So it might make us feel irritable, sick, achy, pains, nausea, headaches, migraines, all these things. So it's like what's happening to Earth, to Gaia, to our mother is also happening to us. So this is kind of why it's a good thing to look at and kind of dive into. The other part of that, so that's kind of like scientifically speaking, we're talking about magnets and stuff, but we at the Divination Detectives, we like to go a little deeper to the spiritual and tap into those energies. So when I think of Mother Earth being in pain and suffering, there's different things that come up, but if you just kind of look at world events right now, there's a lot of human suffering with wars, starvation, resource stealing, all of the good old things that we've been up to for the last few thousand years, just messing shit up. And it's causing the Earth's frequency to be lower. Okay. And again, it makes it more vulnerable to other energies. It makes it more vulnerable to dark energies, because we all know, as people standing on the earth, living, breathing, we have all these unseen energies, and some of them are equilibrium, like the Earth's frequency, the unconditional love and support, and all the food that she gives to us for our body. All of that is neutral and free. But the dark forces, capitalism, patriarchy, all of these choices that man has made over the last long time has eaten away at that unconditional love of Mother Earth, which makes her really sad and makes her really sick. And even if you just look at the animals of the earth, like how many species we've already lost, how we are going against what all the animals are doing, which is living in the vibration of Earth's love and frequency and cycles, and we are going against that. So it creates a lot of friction overall, is how I kind of feel when I tap into that. So it's very sad when you tap into that, because if you think of her as our mother, and here I am with my own little baby here who's finally sleeping and not crying, when you think of that, she she gives us everything she needs. She provides for us. She gives us beautiful cycles and rhythms and all of these things that we could easily live in harmony with. And she's just seeing those choices be manipulated by, I want to say, like the dark side or outside entities. They could be from other planets, from just the unseen, the dead, whatever you want to call it. But it just feels that, we're being influenced in a way that moves us further and further away from her unconditional love. And all those other scientific things are happening because of it, is the way I feel.
Yeah, it
So what do you
makes
think, Goran? I've kind of talked a lot there, but
it's okay. I mean, you definitely had to lead us into what we are actually talking and everything
Mhm.
else. So I think it's worth making that slightly more extensive because it's important to cover all of our bases when it comes to that and really just accentuating what's happening, the patterns, what we are dealing with, in what way, and what the things that might happen as a result of that. And it's wonderful that I feel like you also tapped on the aspect of how it would actually affect us as people that live as an extension of this earth in many different ways. And what I would add on to, because we talked about before we started recording, I looked up into the earth speeding up, and that was, I feel like, another aspect. And where it does not necessarily affect the magnetic pole, because the magnetic pole is something that's internal, as you explained yourself. It comes from the core and basically a dynamo effect within the core's crust. But the aspect of the earth speeding up does have some actually interesting side effects where it can actually, if it speeds up enough, it would cause the oceans to change their pathways, to change their directories. It is also not prophesized, but scientifically predicted that the equator would actually be shifting in length. With that, it's also expected that the areas around equator could be under consistent fog and rain, as well as winds picking up, as well as disorientation and stuff like that. So whilst it's not linked to the magnetic pole, it is also causing, I guess, suffering and shifts to the surface. So in that sense, where my mind is going in the aspect of internal changes and then also external changes, it would make a sense if there is this state of panic and almost a heart attack, as you said, because it is the heartbeat, so to say, of the earth. And I feel like the two coming together in that sense at the same time, it also, it affects the entirety of what's happening. So as you were talking, I did pull the cards just to see where the Earth's energy is at the moment. And I think it's a good time to jump into the cards and see what we pick up on. The card that I got for the Earth energy at the moment is actually the Hermit combined with the Two of Cups, which is an interesting dynamic because the Hermit in itself is sort of withdrawal, stepping away. And it almost feels that way where I feel like a lot of people have been experiencing solitude and isolation. And whilst there are still people that very deeply connect to the energy of the earth itself, Gaia itself, it feels like we've been abandoned to some degree. Again, to me makes sense because, if the earth is under stress and feeling attacked, you withdraw, you pull away from that which causes the pain, the suffering. So it almost feels like the earth is in almost a state of stasis, inactive to some degree due to the stress that it's been experiencing, ultimately sort of withdrawing a little bit and not supporting us as much because it needs to tend to itself. It needs to basically reset in a way. And the Two of Cups, or the Two of Water in this deck, is, I feel like, a very nice touch on the magnetic poles because, two of them And it makes perfect sense. It's something working in tandem, something working in harmony, two things coming together to make a union, to make a harmonious environment, I guess, at the end of the day. I'm interested in what you're picking up.
I'm over here just nodding and agreeing because of the
Yes.
cards I pulled too. I'm going to start with the like that two of cups that you just said, because the very first card I pulled up was this. It's a oracle card and it says water. It has this infinity symbol and it's talking about flow, emotion, and flexibility. And inside the infinity symbol is like the water is all around making the symbol, but on the inside there's a little plant that's alive and a little plant that's root, like the roots are on the bottom. So it's all about like that two of cups, like all about the balance. And when I was recording or when I was shuffling, I asked like what does the earth need? Okay. And this is what it needs. It needs, like, and kind of what I was saying before, it needs to be recalibrated. It needs to come back to neutral. It needs to be able to give give when it's dry and store when it's wet, right? And it's kind of like what we have to do. We have to be living more in balance. It's even making me feel like even if we all just switch to eating like seasonal foods instead of shipping food all over the world just because for convenience or whatever, right? It's we're not living in the natural rhythm of our surrounding area and the earth itself when we're manipulating our systems. Like food system is one example, travel systems, there's all kinds of different systems that we're completely out of flow with, and it's too hard on the earth. It knocked her out of balance, and that unconditional support and love, she's having a hard time getting that out to us because of the flow has been interrupted, the cycles have been interrupted. I have a couple more cards for oracles, and I said, like, what does the earth need right now? And this is another card that has blue all over it, and it's talking about rest and rejuvenation. She's tired, she's distraught. Okay, you got one too. It's like she just needs a rest. She needs to be able to take a breath to recalibrate, but there's so much going on based on like the human choices and everything that has been happening on a human level that we're doing that is causing us not to be able to rest when we need to. It's like there's too much go, go, go. She's like, I can't rest. I can't recalibrate. I can't reestablish the natural flow of things. And then this was really crazy. So I asked, like, what was the challenge? Like, why can't we get to this restful place? And I got this card that says deceit. It's this devil looking guy, and he's holding a bag of money. And we are just being deceived. Like, our culture has deceived us. Our culture has taken us away from the natural rhythms of the earth. We are deceived in thinking that we don't have enough. And when we are 100% provided for, Mother Earth gives us free food, free fruits, free vegetables, but for some reason it costs money and those things are no longer free. And that sets a rate off balance because it makes this collective energy of panic, of not having enough, of suffering. This is what is really affecting the Earth's frequency. Now, that being said, it feels like right now there's a lot of this coming to the surface with all of the wars and all of the unsustainability of all our systems. Like it's all being shown to us right now, and it's not by mistake. It's like these things have to come to the surface so that we can be aware of them and release them and change them and understand, like, where are we being deceived? Where are we deceiving ourselves? Because what the earth wants us to have is this beautiful card here, the sun, and the number one. Like the earth just wants us to be living our best life, shining unapologetically as the beautiful little human souls we are. In this card here, there's this woman in water, with the sun shining over her. She's very like chill to be herself. She has a little, it looks like a little like paint set that she's like going to paint a picture. And that is what Gaia wants for us. Like Gaia just wants us to be happy and joyful and positive and help her to raise her vibration, help her to get back to equilibrium and equal flow. I'll end with the tarot cards because they go very much with the energy, like what's her energy? And these two cards flew right out. So I had the Five of Wands, okay, and it came out with the Star reversed. So the Five of Wands is all like in this card, there's all this rough water. It's a beaver, like trying to make all these things happen. Beavers are very manipulative to the environment. If you have a beaver around, you might have a lake one day, and then the next day it's drained, or you have a little stream, and then all of a sudden you have a lake. So the beaver signifies to about that manipulation of the environment, but also with the five, there's usually like a lot of people on a traditional five card, and it's all the influences, it's the competition, it's the busyness of like, what the people are doing. Like we're just so occupied with each other and fighting and trying to make money and trying to make people suffer, and it has caused the earth to feel this star reversed. And when the star is reversed, she's no longer peaceful. She's very discombobulated. She has fallen off of inspiring people and that kind of thing. It's like it gives me this feeling of like no, not as many people are going into nature and being inspired and being able to feel at peace and feel her unconditional love. And it's thrown her for a loop because usually Gaia is the solace for people. And right now, like I said, the people are just causing so much havoc and just being so occupied with what they're doing and not doing and trying to hold all these old systems to bring them into the future. And Gaia's like, no, like this is bad. Like I feel out of sorts. I feel like I'm in a dream. Like it's more like, I guess not a dream, but more like a nightmare in this case. But what we want is to have it back upright and having that feeling of peace and authenticity and inspiration. So yeah, she's feeling very uninspired. She's feeling, yeah, like the people are not on her side and she needs a rest. That's basically what I'm getting.
I am thinking the same thing as you said before. As you were speaking, I'm just nodding along because I'm literally getting the same thing, just different cards. The two cards that I got for what is basically blocking the energy of the earth right now, what is causing all of this, and the energetical block, you can say, is the Empress and the World card, two major arcana cards showing up in tandem. As far as the Empress goes, I would just not go too deep into it, just basically what you said: a lack of compassion, a lack of love, a lack of nurture for the actual earth. And it seems like stepping away from the natural cycles of the earth and causing a shift in the natural paradigm and how climate operates and how things work in a natural cycle, and ultimately creating a catastrophe for us in the long run. And then the world is pretty much the same thing, stepping away from the natural cycles and not allowing certain things to happen the way that they should. And it all seems to be very much that manipulation and stepping away from where the natural order is. Now, when I say natural order, I do not speak about, the way things should be as far as humanity and stuff like that. I'm talking about natural order of earth, natural order of cycles, because we are also experiencing famine, real time, real space. And there is definitely a lack of compassion on a world basis towards that, and a lack of movement towards fixing that, or trying to at least figure it out, or to have enough compassion to make a stand for that. In comparison to that, then also just the wars, the politics, and everything else just going freaking haywire. And I feel
Mhm.
like the good thing is that people are starting to wake up, and we have spoken about this privately as well. So, in a way, a lot of this almost needed to happen in order for the human consciousness to awaken to the reality of the situation. And we touched on that in private in regards to politics and what's happening, and just how much certain things are enunciated at this time, and how now people are actually able to see what's happening behind the scenes and what's happening on a larger scale. And it feels like this is part of the problem, because all of these things were done. It's not like they are now just starting. It's things that were done that's actually causing all of this, but now we're just seeing it and experiencing it real time. I did also pull two cards just to say what can we expect going forward. And it's interesting because we got two cold cards. We got the page of fire, or the page of wands,
Mhm.
as the first one. And that's a combination of earth and fire energies. And it almost feels like things will burn, things will get hotter, things will be more enunciated, things will be more pronounced before we actually get into the king of earth, that actually talks about generosity, responsibility, and a more practical approach. Because it feels like what is happening, even with technology and stuff like that, smartphones and smart technology making our life easier, but at the same time, it is not practical for who we are as people. It is not practical to our rhythm of nature and how we function. It's basically just taking us further out of that and really pushing us more towards these artificial ways of living. With the page, to go back on that real quick, we also have one of the messages on this card is mischievous. You touched on the beaver being just that energy, slightly trickster energy, almost like Loki from the Celtic myths. And it definitely feels like there is a lot of manipulation, like what you said. I just have to confirm that. It feels like it's a lot of manipulation on a larger scale behind the scenes that is now becoming more visible. With this page, it has more confidence to come out. People are more bold. Structures are more bold to say, we are doing this. So what? You cannot do anything about that. And it's almost like this process needs to happen in order for, again, the human collective to actually understand, oh shit, we need to do something about this. We have the power, we can do something about this. We can return to the natural way of doing things, living off of the earth, the resources that we are provided, rather than feeding into these big corporations, politics, and operations that are basically being the doom of us and creating more problems. So my prediction would be that, as difficult and harsh it is to say this, and I do not want anybody to panic, but it's probably going to get a bit worse before it gets better, because there is still a lot of people asleep. There is still a lot
Yeah.
of people complacent to the way things are done. And until the collective is completely awoken, or at least enough of us are awoken to what's actually happening in regards to this and what's being done to Earth, we cannot really shift anything, because you need people for that. You need a large amount of people saying, no, this is enough. We are not doing this any longer. So that's what I got on my end in regards to what's actually kind of the block. And it's us ultimately, because we are literally the only species that is not living with the rhythm of the earth as
Yeah.
much as we have in the past.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, like you were saying, like not to be doom and gloom about things getting worse, but star reverse, it is anxious. It is anxiety. Like this is an Aquarius card too. Oh, that's another thing. This is Aquarius. Aquarius is about rebelling against old systems, being authentically yourself, and yeah, being able to move that water, because usually in the star card, there's a lady like that's moving the water. So it kind of goes back to that water card I got at the beginning. It's like using our collective intelligence to come out of this. And I got the Ten of Swords reversed as like what's to come, which again makes a lot of sense if we're talking about things coming to the surface first, because when the 10 of swords is there, there's like all the anxiety, all the thoughts, all the worries that have made us feel stuck and unmovable is coming up to the surface. And then what happens after the 10? We go to the ace, right? And then that's a fresh new idea. That's a fresh direction. It's the truth. So it's like we're very close to the truth with the 10 of swords. It feels good, right? It's in a way, like it's not like it's not attainable. It feels like, again, like we were saying, just bringing it all up and cutting out and making the best decision to move forward. Other thing I just wanted to touch on about the pole shifting, I wanted to kind of get insight onto, is that going to happen in our lifetime? And I got this card that says unlikely. So I feel that although it is a thing, and like I was saying with the magnetic poles, I feel like there is going to be shifting. And I'm not saying those shifts are not going to cause things, like they're obviously going to create different things, but I don't think we're going to have like a full-on switch or even our children. It feels still quite a ways off for our little meager human lives. But again, you always should think about the future and think about what we're leaving for those people in the future. And it's like, what can we do now in our own small way, in our own way, in our communities, any kind of way at all, in our own personal lives, to raise that vibration and do better for ourselves and for the earth, and just be more aware of what systems have been put in place and why, and just the destruction that they're still doing. Like people think, oh, we haven't conquered this country for 200 years or whatever. Like there's like people think that all of this bad stuff that we've done as humans is in the past, and now we're just living with the outcome. But it's like, no, we're still living within those systems. A lot of belief systems, a lot of physical systems. I mean, I could go on about all the crappy systems that we have to deal with on a day to day, but I feel like people need to be a little bit more awake to that's them just being what they are, systems. It's a belief, it's imaginary. Even if you think of like a borderline on a country, like it doesn't exist, it just is fake. We just put it there on a map and in our minds that when you cross this road, you're in a different country. So I think more people are being aware of that and realizing that, yes, we can break these systems down. And not just that we can, but we have to in order to survive, in order for the earth to keep providing for us, providing for our future generations. The indigenous people around this area, I guess in maybe different ones, have the same kind of theory about 7 generations. We should always be thinking about 7 generations ahead. What are our actions now? Like how it doesn't matter how it affects us now. We have to think about those generations in the future. How does it impact them? It has to be a wave that goes out in a good way, not in a bad way. I feel that our government systems are missing the mark on that. And a lot of us are forced to live in those systems. So it's really about dismantling and getting the right people in the right places, but also it all starts with waking up as an individual, right?
Exactly. And I want to say in closing that I just pulled 2 cards just to say what we can expect with the magnetic shift.
Mm-hmm.
Because I got the same sense that it's not going to happen in our lifetime. But what can we expect as far as just that slightly shifting and stuff like that? And it's very similar to what I was getting with the Page of Wands, like things getting hotter. I got the Three of Water or Three of Cups in
Mm-hmm.
combination with the Dreamer, which would be the Fool in traditional tarot decks. And it almost feels like water is carving the way. Water is going to
Mm-hmm.
be the force that is going to shift the tides, that is going to shift everything. And it almost feels like the biggest thing that we can expect is the tides rising, the sea levels rising, which is going to be harmful in some areas, especially for people that might be living near, the coast. But it is also going to be our salvation because it's going to shift the trajectory that we are heading down on. Because those
Mm-hmm.
shifts are ultimately going to bring a bit of a cool down. Because it does feel like, over the last couple of years, and we were talking about more hotter summers and just more heat being brought up, And it feels like water is going to be that healing inadvertently that's going to put out the fire, that's going to put stop to the heat. And that's another one of the side effects of the magnetic poles, because during the shift, they get weaker, or if they are shifting, they become weaker, which exposes us to more radiation, right? And that
Mhm.
means less protection from the sun, means more heat coming to the earth, more radiation coming to the earth, which also
Mhm.
affects the technology. It can also affect animals, and it can affect people in just the way that we are connected to the vibration of those magnets. In closing, I would definitely invite you all to put down your opinions, to let us know what you think, how you view this. If there is any information that you would want us to look into, or if you would want to see more of this and you would want us to look into something that's related on this topic, we do invite you to check out our previous episodes. Check both of us on social media. You can find me under Tarot Shuffle and Alex under Guiding Tarot on most social platforms, but the links will be put down below in the description. And until next time, stay safe, guys.